to this as a lawyer here in Ireland, but my experience is in planning law and environmental law, and they're kind of hand in hand. It led me to, sustainability of our resources is a big part of the way we treat planning law, and it follows that sustainability in our use of energy is very important. What I was finding with the extractive industry with regard to a planning law was you have a lot of aggregates like crushed limestone, but more particularly sand and gravel. And I was very concerned with all my work in the extractive industry that we have exhausted nearly all our eskers and drumlins of sand and gravel to such an extent that in the UK they are dredging estuaries to try and get sand. And I understand that that's going on in some other European countries as well. So I was very conscious of our use of sand and gravel and all of the extracts from the ground, to use them in an appropriate manner. And I seen a lot of wastage going on. Sometimes a lot of projects are justified on the basis of employment, which is very poor planning. Employment shouldn't be the primary objective, whilst it's very important. Sustainable employment is just as important as sustainable energy. But we need to look at, and I know I'm digressing here, but we're introducing automation in banks, we're introducing automation everywhere, at supermarkets, and we're doing away with employment for our sons and daughters. And then when a project comes up for infrastructure, we all leap on it and we think this is a great employment opportunity. That's only going to last a couple of years, and it's very, very short-sighted. But what really concerned me with the use of aggregates, wanton use of aggregates, was for example, a wind turbine typically takes, I've calculated, about 200 loads of ready mix to anchor the turbine. That ready mix is coming from sand and gravel. Sand and gravel is a very rare natural resource, and in the space of 2 generations we have taken our sand and gravel away as if there was an infinite supply of it, and we need to be mindful of our use of natural resources. I would agree. It was a box-ticking exercise to a certain extent, which is a bit unfortunate. There was a lot of valuable points made in some of the submissions made to the statutory authorities, but it would appear that they already had their mind made up, and they went through with the public consultation process to tick the boxes to comply with the European directives, which is not very good governance, but that's what happened, or what appears to be happening. I think it's because it's the visible. As I was saying, deep geothermal, you can't see it. As a matter of fact, very few people know about deep geothermal in Ireland. Most people would, in fairness, probably know about shallow geothermal, but only a handful of professionals would know about deep geothermal. And it's because perhaps you can't see it. Wind turbines, for example, you can see them. And we did a renewable energy document recently, and we sent it to the editor, and we covered all renewable energies, including wind, but we covered all of them. But the editor slapped in pictures of wind turbines because that was his perception of renewable energy. Of course, we made him take some of them out. Fine, when you're talking about wind, put pictures of turbines in, but he was opening it up and closing the document with it, which just, it typifies how the public in general see renewable energy. They say, oh, wind, which unfortunately it seems to have, and then that has implanted itself in the politicians' heads. So the politicians then see wind, and everybody looks with blinkered vision when counterfacts come up that those people don't like, which has happened. The reports get buried, and the real sources of energy with real potential get overlooked, which is unfortunate, and that's why I'm trying to educate people. I have no vested interest, but I'm just trying to educate people into the prospects of deep geothermal. We have, for example, a fault line which runs through Ireland from Limerick to Drogheda, and on that fault line is where two tectonic plates met, and we have a lot of geothermal activity, and we have a lot of mines. Well, the legal framework in renewables were very deficient. Deep geothermal, which I've spoken about, is actually illegal here in Ireland, believe it or not. And it's illegal by accident. The Mining Acts of the 1930s prescribed or banned boring holes below a depth of 300 metres or yards. I can't remember which ratio it was, but we now have a deep geothermal energy bill, which is going to be new law to undo that unintentional damage to renewable energies. But unfortunately, the deep geothermal energy bill is there about 6 or 7 years, and it's still a bill. It should be an act, of course, long ago. And in fact, we had a company, I think it was from France, was across here to do deep geothermal, and right here in South Dublin was one of the areas identified for deep geothermal, and they had to pack their bags up and go away to England back in 2012 because the legislation wasn't amended for them in time, and we are now in 2017 and it's still not amended. Is the land managed properly with wind energy? No, it certainly isn't. We've had instances here in Ireland. You see, the current setback distance for wind turbines is 500 metres, which is totally inadequate for nowadays, because the 500 metres was brought in at a time when wind turbines were very small. They're now very big. But what happens is, you're talking about land management. A company, and it's happened near us, they identified a stretch of land where there was a 500-metre gap between possible turbines, and they went chasing all the owners of the land on that. That's not, we should be looking at land that's suitable for wind energy, rather than to see where we could squeeze them in between houses. Is there any financial? Yes, there is, and that's what's driving it. Unfortunately, it's grants that are driving the production, the installation of wind turbines. Warren Buffett stated publicly not that long ago that he had no interest in renewable energy, and he was only in it for the grants that were there at the end of the day. So it's a very misguided, and of course this all comes down from the political elite who haven't thought the thing out properly, and they have grants in for an energy that is perceived to be green, but without looking behind to see what it costs to put these things there and what the other alternative sources are.
And for people living around wind turbines, is there any compensation for them?
No. No. There was a legal case taken recently by a group of Cork residents against, I think it was Enercom, or some part of that, and it's still in the courts, but it's looking like that may settle out of court, because if it goes through the courts, it sets a precedent, and I would say that the people will be compensated outside of the court system.